So I saw The Flash. I know it's been out for a couple weeks, and as far as I can tell, nobody's really seen it because, like, they were trying to bribe people to see it by, like, oh, if you buy one seat, we'll give you another ticket free, because, like, please go see our movie. Please go see our movie. We know we canceled Batgirl and are never going to allow anyone to see it, but we really wanted people to see this one starring Ezra Miller, you know, the asshole who's been grooming kids and beating people up and getting into all sorts of, you know, violent crimes and stuff. No. We gotta have that movie, but we can't have a movie starring a black Batgirl. It's not a good movie. It's really not a good movie. And like for a movie called The Flash, there's so little actual emphasis on the character of The Flash. Like, if you saw the trailers for it, you could see that all of the promos were trying to sell, you know, oh, look at all these other characters we've got in here. Like, you know, we've got Supergirl, and we've got Michael Keaton back as Batman. And they're doing the Flashpoint story, which if you've watched the CW Flash show, or if you have read the original Flashpoint, you'll know that Barry goes back in time to try and save his mother from being murdered. And in so doing, he breaks the timeline. And so that's the basic plot of this. And like they even have a scene where they try to explain how even though he changed the timeline at this one point, there's a ripple effect in both directions. That's why Batman is much older and played by Michael Keaton instead of Ben Affleck. You know, there's other changes, and like that doesn't make sense. If you change something in the timeline, then it should branch off from that point in the timeline. It wouldn't make sense that you would. The way they explain it is like, and Batman's the one who explains this. He's like, see, here, I've got a plate of spaghetti. What you think is you make a change at this point in the timeline, and then he puts a finger on two strands of spaghetti, and then you think the timeline branches off like this, and he bends one of them away. He's like, but what actually happens is this, and then he spins one of the spaghetti perpendicular to the other one. And he's like, where they intersect, that's the focal point. That's where you've made the change, and everything else branches off from there. And I'm like, no. If the universe leading up to it was completely different up until that point, it would still have to have converged to that point to be the same basic universe there. It wouldn't make sense that you'd have a different Batman. It was not satisfying enough of an explanation to me. You could have said, when you went back in time, you were already traveling to a parallel universe there. And so that's why the change had further ripple effects, you know? And also, it didn't make sense to me that Batman would be the one to know this. Because, like, Batman's a great detective and all, but what does he know about, you know, the multiverse and, you know, time paradoxes and all that? Like, what, just because, like, Batman's smart, that he's an expert on this? That didn't make sense. Like, if it had been, like, a Tony Stark that had said it, I could buy it more because Tony Stark is like a scientist first, but Batman's not a scientist, you know? So it doesn't make sense to me that you would have had Batman be the one to know this. Like, if anything, it could be like the Flash runs into another Flash who explains the multiverse to him. And there are, in fact, two Flashes in this movie because Barry runs into his younger self. So there's actually two Ezra Millers this whole movie. And the younger one is so annoying. He's like just this very obnoxious, oh, everything's cool, oh my god, this is great, and like making jokes constantly, and like, you know, not in like a Marvel kind of a way, more in like a your annoying younger brother who is not funny but is really trying to be kind of a way. And like they even have a point where he talks about how he knows he's annoying, he's just really enthusiastic, as if it was, and like they try and play that scene like it's like, oh, okay, so it was okay that I couldn't stand him before this point, but it really doesn't make up for it. Yeah, didn't even want one of them. There's two. Yeah, no, like Ezra Miller is a piece of shit. I didn't want two of them in this movie. And like for doing a multiverse thing, it's not like they barely like build up on these characters at all. It's just like they kind of just give Kara like a couple of scenes to introduce her, and that's about it. There's nothing really major selling us on her character, nothing to be like, wow, Supergirl's here, here's what we're gonna do with her. She's just kind of there, almost like they didn't want to pay Henry Cavill to come back or couldn't get Henry Cavill to come back, and that's why they've changed from Superman to Supergirl. One thing I want to talk about, you've probably seen this shot in the trailer. There's actually like 2 different trailers. He says 2 different things. Like in the first one, he goes, yeah, I'm Batman. And in the second trailer, he goes, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Because those are 2 famous lines that he said from the Tim Burton Batman movie, right? Now, when I saw those trailers, I figured, okay, those are alternate takes. They're only going to go with one of those in the movie because here he is standing dramatically over a balcony to say, you know, a line from the past. You know, it's like how Thanos didn't actually say, fun isn't something one considers when balancing the universe, but this does put a smile on my face, right? You know, it's a line for the trailer. It's not supposed to actually be in there. I figured they'd only go with one of them. Not only do they use both of those, there's actually 2 different scenes. There are 2 different scenes where he stands at this point, at this spot of the Batcave, dramatically posing over the balcony to say an old line from an old movie. Twice they did this. Like, the director just loved the idea of having this cool thing of, oh, he's gonna say the old thing, but we can't have him say both of them in a single scene because that'll just seem a little gratuitous. So let's have 2 whole scenes of him doing this. One would have been more than enough, Paco. I agree with you. I don't know which one I would pick more. I think I would probably just go with the yeah, I'm Batman line, even though like they've already met him and know that he's Batman before he puts on the suit. But I think the you want to get nuts, let's get nuts line, like that one is a very specific line that I don't think worked in the scene, and it was just, yeah, exactly, Jessica Metal. Come on, say the line. Yeah, I think he should have just stuck with I'm Batman. That's fine, that's great. But don't do 2, you know? Pick one. Let's talk about the costume. Actually, the costume, for the most part, it's fine. But there's one thing that bugs me, and this is something that, like, basically every superhero movie has to do now, where the head piece, like, retracts into the neck. You know, like Iron Man. Iron Man used to have the face mask that would pop open, but now the entire thing just retracts into his suit so that he has a whole head going on. And that is the same thing here, except it's still a cloth hood. So it like, there's just some mechanism that pulls it back and puts it back on. And I'm like, it's a cloth hood. Just use your hands and pull it back. Like, I know they did it that way because the mask is all CG, because they're always doing it just all CG, because that way they don't have to like worry about, oh, your hair is going to get messed up once we pull back the helmet or something like that, you know, to make it look a little nicer or easier on the hairstylists for the movie. But it doesn't look good. It always looks fake. It always looks really cheap. For a cloth hood that you can literally just pull back, there was no reason to do that. Now, I was talking in my Indiana Jones movie about, you know, using CGI to like de-age people, or I was worried about how they might, after Harrison Ford dies, make another Indiana Jones movie and bring him back from the dead. And that really directly ties into this movie, because there are multiple people that they use CGI to bring back from the dead. Because there's a whole sequence where like the multiverse is like coming apart at the seams, and like different universes are like colliding together in like this kind of like Speed Force sphere thing that we see. Like basically each universe looks like its own little sphere moving around in the multiverse, and we can see them colliding. And every single one of those is like a different film franchise from DC. So we see the George Reeves Superman, Adventures of Superman from the 40s, and we see Christopher Reeve, and we see Adam West's Batman, and they even do a film that was never actually made. They show us a CGI Nick Cage in a Superman suit fighting a giant spider. Because if anybody's ever seen that Kevin Smith stand-up routine where he was talking about his experience writing a treatment for a Superman film, the producer John Peters really wanted Superman to fight a giant spider. And so if you've seen that, you'll get the joke. but it's literally just a joke. And I'll tell you who they didn't put in when they're having all of these multiverses collide. They didn't put in Grant Gustin. You know, the guy who's been playing the Flash for the last decade. Like, it's a movie called The Flash, and you're having the multiverse all collide and seeing different universes, and you would think you would at least get to see like a moment of this dude showing up, because he has been the Flash most people know and like. You know, Grant Gustin's an actually cool dude who doesn't go and like physically assault people and doesn't groom kids. But no, he doesn't get to show up. No, we gotta have Nick Cage show up, a CGI Nick Cage fighting a CGI spider for a joke that Kevin Smith would get. And the resolution of the movie, like, Barry realizes that going back in time and the most minor change will mess everything up, so he has to go back and basically let his mom die so that he can set everything right again. But, like, you would think that the lesson would be you shouldn't mess with time. You should just go, like, even the most minor change could have drastic consequences, so don't go back in time and change anything. But instead, he just changes something else so that even though his mom dies, there's like security footage of his dad at the grocery store looking up at the camera, because like he moved like a can of tomatoes that his dad was going to pick up when his mom was murdered. And so by moving the cans of tomatoes from like the bottom shelf to the top shelf, it gets his dad to look up and his face is on the camera, establishing his alibi so that he gets acquitted of the murder of his wife. So he still made a minor change that changed the timeline, but that one isn't treated as some big disaster that he messed everything up for. No. That one just gets a minor change, which I won't spoil that joke for you, because you're probably not going to see it anyway, and it's not that big of a joke. I don't get why they felt they had to have this movie. Like, I know that James Gunn is coming in, and they're doing a whole, like, DCEU reboot, and they were probably using this movie as, like, the springboard to, oh, this is why things are different now, because Barry went and changed things again. But I don't even think that the way the universe ends with him, I don't think that's going to be what it is going forward. Like, I don't think James Gunn is going to be using any of these people for the DCU, you know? I think James Gunn is going to be doing his own thing. Like, he had the opportunity to have Henry Cavill in the next Superman. He's like, no, I want to do my own things. I don't think he's going to... I feel fairly confident that they're not going to bring back Ezra Miller as the Flash. Like, I think this is the last time we ever get to see that version of the Flash. I hope so. Because that dude. But if you wanted a movie in which you had Michael Keaton come back as Batman, they had it, and it was called Batgirl, and David Zaslav shit-canned it so that he could use it as a tax write-off because he didn't want to release a movie with a black lead because David Zaslav is a piece of shit. But this guy, no. Ezra Miller, they get to keep their movie that nobody likes and like nobody's seen. And the only reason I saw this movie is because I got Stubbs A-list, so I'm paying the same amount per month regardless of whether I saw this movie. So as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I know that they've set aside, you know, oh, well, your A-list subscription went, you saw these movies, so we'll set aside a portion of it. But, you know, it's not like I was directly buying a ticket for this movie with money that would have otherwise not been spent. That's pretty much the only reason I saw this movie. Don't see this movie. It's not worth it, especially not for Ezra Miller. That's it. It's just a bad movie. Paco says, also we need to update the US tax code so that completed or nearly completed movies can't be written off like that. Yes, absolutely. And this is, David Zaslav started this, and we've seen, like, Disney did it with the Willow TV show. And I haven't even talked about this on stream yet, but Paramount Plus canceled Star Trek Prodigy, even though season 2 is almost, like, finished being produced, was ready to go, like, later this year. They canceled it, and they pulled it from their service. So they had been advertising Paramount Plus as the home for all of Star Trek, but now there's this whole Star Trek show that's just not on there. This kind of stuff, that needs to stop. I think that if you pull something from availability, that legally you release it into the public domain. At this point, I think it is a necessity to find alternate methods of saving these shows so that greedy corporate executives can't just bin it so that they've got, you know, a couple more bucks to give out to shareholders this quarter, you know? Because as we all know, capitalism is only about quarterly revenue growth. There's no such thing as long-term gains. No. We can't have any of that. We can't, build up customer loyalty by, looking like a solid company that's always making quality work and treating their customers right. No, that doesn't pay the bills quickly enough this quarter. Who cares about next quarter? That's next quarter's problem. When the Warner Brothers Discovery merger happened and David Zaslav became the new CEO over there, it's just like he doesn't care about preserving, media. He just sees it as another tax write-off, and that's disgusting to me. Anyway, don't see The Flash. If you want to watch The Flash, watch the CW show. I haven't kept up with that show in several years, but I remember really liking the earlier seasons, and Grant Gustin's a good dude. So yeah, if you want to watch The Flash, watch the TV show. Don't watch this movie. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream these reviews every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a special shout out to pfftlecakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.